I think when we knew that we were going to be coming back to this area to start the Refuge, for me, there was really a collision of a lot of different emotions. I was very excited because I felt like it was the fulfillment of destiny that we come back to this area. But also, it was honestly one of the scariest things I've ever done in my life.
I felt no doubt that it was what was in our hearts to do and that it was God's plan, but the actual jumping off the cliff, as I referred to it at those days, was overwhelming on every level.
Well, God had spoken to us before we ever had the first service and had given us a picture of the cave of Adullam, where David was hiding from Saul, who was pursuing him. And with David came, according to the scripture, people who were distressed and discontent and impoverished. And in the basement, as we gathered for those first few weeks, it seemed like God just brought a lot of wounded warriors together that just needed a refuge.
We used to get home-cooked meals at our staff meetings.
Yes, we did.
Before unnamed staff members all showed up and started messing up.
It was a lot easier to get us all around one table at that point in time, too. It's just a little more difficult now.
Well, we were in a rental house when we first started, and that became the office of the Refuge. So our staff meetings were there where we just poured in there. I think it was on Monday nights.
Yeah, Monday nights.
Every Monday night, we'd all pour in there, and we would dream and talk and try to figure out what in the world are we doing.
Yeah, and didn't know each other. I mean, that's the thing. It was like coming in, I kept hearing about Nathan and Tamsy. So I didn't even know who these people were. You know?
We cannot not mention the fact that when they pulled up in their U-Haul, one of the first things they did was hit our van as we're helping them try to get moved in.
We just driven 10 and a half hours from Alabama, and I make this whole drive driving. I was driving one of your U-Hauls. I wasn't even driving mine, I think. I was driving one of yours.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
So I'm driving up, and we get here, no problem, no issues. And it's till we get to the cul-de-sac of the place we had the rental house, and I'm trying to turn in, and I keep feeling resistance. And I'm like, there's something wrong with the truck, and I catch in the side view mirror, your van is up on two wheels on the side, and I'm like, just trying to ease on back. It was a proud moment, real proud time.
But you know what's awesome about those times, and even just thinking about that house, I mean, that's where, like, you know, chemistry started developing, you know, with the team. I mean, learning each other and even learning things that we were all, you know, going through. But those were awesome times, just, you know, being able to come together and, you know, spend it there and having the meal and just, you know, building that team.
It moved so fast. Like, I think we thought it was going to be, you know, we were going to walk into it gradually, but it was like an onslaught where we had to have children's church immediately. We had to have more space, more chairs, more of everything, and more parking. So I think it was overwhelming and exciting, all rolled up into one. And we realized more than ever we were clueless how to get the job done, but we knew God did.
Well, we lasted 4 weeks in the basement and had an immediate need to find more space. Every weekend we were putting out these yard signs at key intersections, and we made the move to Cannon School just because it was one of the only places we could find that we could afford to rent and that would give us some more space. And then over the next few months, we watched God do so many miracles where the people that had gathered in the basement, the wounded warriors, all of a sudden exploded from 40 to 400 people over the next 8 months.
We had gone from 40 people that we had some kind of relationship with now to every week just people coming in that we didn't know and they didn't know us. It was just such an exciting time as people decided whether or not this was a fit for them. So it was just a fun time.
I'll never forget walking down the hallway of Cannon School. You know, we had the middle school auditorium, but then in the library of the school was the nursery. You guys remember that? That we had cribs and stuff in there. And then the children's ministry was actually in the hallway. Remember, B2, you guys would hang curtains.
Yeah, the intersection where 2 hallways crossed, and it was the largest opening that we could find to put kids in. And so we hung up curtains on either end and made it look like a base camp, a tent that we used, and that became what the theme was a base camp.
Remember your first sound system there?
First sound system was this little small boom box that actually had cassette tape sound system to it, yes. We struggled because it was $99 at Walmart, and it was a struggle. That was the biggest purchase the children's ministry had ever made at that point.
Huge step of faith.
I'll never forget the T-Bows, because I mean, we had all that stuff, but we couldn't afford a trailer to put it in, so they emptied one of their work trailers.
That's right.
And not only did they do that, they drove it, because only their truck could drive it, because none of us had a vehicle. So they would drive it to us. We would do and they would help do all the work, and then we didn't have anywhere to store it because we owned nothing. And so they would drive it back to their house, park it in their garage.
Yeah.
So they couldn't use their garage all week because it had to have all the refuge stuff, and then bring it back the next week, and did it the entire 6 months.
With the worship team, same thing. Everyone's storing equipment at their house essentially, and we're all kind of assembling. And if people slept in or didn't show up, it wasn't that we didn't have a bass player; it's that we didn't have half the sound system. And so people had to remember, and we're calling people and waking people up and swinging by their storage unit to pick up the drums. And then when the school started letting us store some of the stuff on site, it was revival. I mean, we almost broke out in revival.
Well, I remember the Sunday we showed up to load in, and they had not bothered to tell us that there was a book fair going on in the auditorium where we were supposed to meet.
That's right.
And we're there to have service and start loading in, and we can't load in because there's this massive book fair. So then we had to put everything in the cafeteria and move tables out and have church in the cafeteria.
I can remember sitting in Canon School in one particular time, just standing in the back while worship was going on, and they were leading the song, "You Are My Strength, My Shield," my portion, and I sat back there and just wept because at that moment there was such a healing that was taking place. To just recognize I wasn't having to do anything, and I could just sit in His presence. And I always remember that Sunday, knowing that the Lord had me in His hands.
Inside of all of us, there's a destiny that had been placed on us right from the beginning. The Lord had placed that destiny on us. And I think what we all needed was a healthy start. We needed a healthy place, and that's what the Refuge was right from the very beginning. And when you take all of us and all of the people that were part of this from the beginning, and you put all of those people into that healthy environment where they were being nourished, then you could start to see really the giftings coming out. And it was a really precious time.
Of course, Mark and Bridget aren't with us, and man, what a great couple. And
Oh yeah, helped us lay a foundation for worship here at the Refuge that's been so important, from the very beginning, very foundational, and still to this day, worship is such a part of who we are, and people still talk about the atmosphere of worship, and Mark and Bridget was such a vital part of that. Do you guys remember by chance the time that we tried to get Bridget to shoot a video announcement?
Fellowship groups met for the first time, and we had a wonderful time of prayer, food, and just getting to know one another.
She was terrified of doing that, and we were determined for some reason that she was going to do a video announcement, and it probably took 2 hours for her to do one 30-second announcement.
remember how we used to do those?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, handheld camera.
Yeah.
And our dear brethren, Nathaniel Smith was the editor, producer, director.
And I must
Right at the
say,
game, yeah, and
This is our first
they were
media
some of the
director.
funniest videos ever.
From 4 to 7, be at Dorton Park for this ACF.
Hey, Scott, dude.
Nathan!
Hey, man, you're freaking everybody out, dude. I just really, that's not really what I was thinking.
You ruined my opportunity to be on a video announcement. Thanks a lot.
Well, man, I'm just thinking about the folks out there. I mean, you're weirding us all out, man. Here we are in the dark. I don't even know what I'm doing here.
You know, Marcy, that whole thing about the calisthenics, American Calisthenics Festival,
I was just joking. I mean, I knew. It's as clear as a bell.
I know.
All church fishing.
I know.
You knew it. We all knew it.
I knew it wasn't Abercrombie and Fitch sale.
I thought that was funny personally.
This is Zach.
Zach, we have a problem. The announcements have been hijacked.
What? Hijacked?
Yes, but we've traced it back to an agent, Nathanius.
Okay, Zoe, I need you to get me those directions to where he is right away.
Okay, I'll get you the directions. They're on their way.
Okay.
You go this way, half a mile, take the second left and the third right. That's the second warehouse on the right.
Here's to ya.
I get so carried away with these video announcements sometimes that I don't pause just to let you know somebody loves you.
Yeah, we don't know if anybody got the information of what the video announcement was for.
But we had fun.
But we had a blast. That's right.
I'll never forget when we began to look for somewhere else to meet because it became obvious we couldn't stay in Cannon School any longer. And I found us walking through an old gym. I could not really picture how this was ever going to be a church. But the more we looked, the more we talked, and we realized, one, it was about all we could afford, and secondly, it actually there was space for the children, and there were space for auditorium and a few offices, and this became the reality.
Yeah, I thought it was neat when we found what was formerly Nikita's Gym. It was a fitness center when we found it, still full of fitness equipment.
I am standing in front of Nikita's old gym. This is the future site of the Refuge.
And we walked through and started brainstorming, talking about ideas, and decided, we could probably make this work. But the thing I think that struck me was that it used to be a place where people would come and build their physical bodies. And now it was going to become a place where people would come and build their spiritual man.
For years, people built their physical bodies in this building. But now, spiritual houses are going to be built. Families are going to be built. The lives and the destinies of people are going to be shaped here at the Refuge. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done, but we believe in doing church as a team. We're going to pull together and we're going to see this place transformed into a wonderful place for the Refuge. We need everybody to be involved, everybody that can to help us. And over the next few weeks, we'll keep you updated on the progress of what takes place with this building.
Everything we did in those early days just required enormous faith on our part because we didn't have money. We didn't have a large amount of money sitting in the bank, so everything was a stretch of faith. It came time for us to purchase chairs for the fitness center that we were renovating. And a guy who had been helping us renovate the building, who had been attending the Refuge, dropped by our house one day, and he presented us with a check. And the impact of what Mark Schultz did for the Refuge and the chairs that he helped us purchase will never, ever be forgotten.
I had made an appeal to the people that were part of the Refuge in those very first few months to help us buy the chairs that you sit in now. You see, we didn't have much money. We were a young church, and we needed to buy 300 chairs for the auditorium. I'll never forget one afternoon during the fall, there was a knock at my door. Melanie and I were renting a house at 4891 Aldridge Court. And I opened the door of that house, that rental house, and there stood Mark, grinning from ear to ear. I looked up at Mark, and he was so excited, and he said, "Pastor, I had to come by. I had to bring this to you." And he puts into my hands that afternoon a check for $26,000. For our young church, we had never seen a check near that size. And Mark said with the greatest joy on his face and in his heart, "You can go buy those chairs now." So we did. We bought those chairs, and on November the 7th, 2004, we had our very first service in this building on Central Drive. Mark was so excited as he saw all 300 chairs fill the capacity. Over the next few weeks, we just rejoiced at the glory of God that filled that place. A couple of weeks went by that I didn't see Mark, and then I got a letter in the mail that really caught me by surprise. In fact, I kept that letter. It's dated December the 15th. It says, "Hey, Pastor Jay, Hope you and your family are well and have a Merry Christmas. There's no easy way to say this. I was diagnosed with terminal stomach cancer. No more than a few months. I'm looking forward to heaven. Everybody I love is there. Mark goes on to say, thanks for the Refuge. It's a great place. God bless you all. He wrote that on December the 15th. On December the 26th, on a Sunday, we had our service, and later that afternoon, I learned that Mark was in the hospital. I went to see him at the hospital. Walked into that hospital room. Mark was in enormous pain, but we talked about heaven. We talked about the chairs. We talked about what God was doing at the Refuge. A few hours after Craig Malls left the hospital, in fact, just in the wee hours of the 27th, Mark went on to be with Jesus. He entered his eternal rest in heaven. On December the 30th, I had the great honor of conducting his funeral service. But let me tell you, that was not the end of Mark Schultz. Mark's legacy lives on still today. You know, a big part of who we are from the beginning is the outreaches that we've done. And those aren't something that evolved as we got larger and, had more people coming. From day one, we started doing outreaches.
And when we would say we're going to have an outreach this Saturday, everybody come Saturday morning, and we would have 2/3 of the congregation show up. We had the first one, I think we had 100 people coming, and we had 75 people show up for outreach, and I was blown away.
I remember one of the first outreaches we did is we got water bottles with the Refuge logo on the water bottles. And we would go to parks and gatherings of people and just hand out those water bottles, We did the Thanksgiving outreach. Did we do that the very first year?
Very first
We did, the first Thanksgiving.
First Thanksgiving.
It was a cold day.
We went to Farrington West,
Yeah.
to the apartment complex right down the road, because we started out with our neighborhood, and that's real close.
Last Sunday, we had another great outreach at Farrington West. I was so excited by what I saw as we gave away bicycles and hid Easter eggs and saw all of the children and the families come out. In fact, one lady who's lived there 9 years said she's never seen anybody come in and do something like that. I was so very proud of the Refuge because I saw the church in action. For the 2006 Thanksgiving outreach, we thank God for our neighbors, and I'm in the assembly line along with about 300 other folks, but come on, I'll walk you through the process here. Little mashed potatoes, and of course you got to have the yams. Got some yams, great job. Green beans, like a lot of green beans. And here's the ham going in the box. You can't have Thanksgiving without a good ham. What do we got here? Cheesecake. For the 2006 Thanksgiving outreach, and we want to say
We've had some great outreaches through the years, and God has really allowed us the chance to do some really cool things. I think one of the largest outreaches we ever did, and there were some really positive things that came out of it, but it was a fiasco in other ways.
We all know what you're going to say.
The infamous egg drop. Yeah, I think attracted over 15,000 people, 17,000 people or something that showed up. In fact, it caused an actual traffic jam on Google Maps. You guys remember that?
It was backed up over the bridge.
Yes.
You know, right to Arby's.
7 mile backup.
7 mile backup, yeah.
Not to mention the kids that were punching each other out trying to get their eggs.
And the adults.
That was just the church kids.
Unbelievable day, man. Thousands and thousands of people that just rushed this field to come collect the eggs at the Easter Egg Drop 2011. Been an amazing day, and I want to thank all of our volunteers that helped make it happen. You guys are amazing. You're awesome.
We're still doing outreaches today.
Yes.
Some of them are highly successful, others are a little more challenging, but God's still using us. A lot of people are still showing up for our outreaches. It's just a part of who we are.
Yes.
You know, it's a part of the culture of the Refuge. And now we're in the schools. You know, God's opened these doors with outreaches in the schools. It's just so neat how God's given us the chance.
I came on staff at the Refuge, and I started to head up our ministry to the public schools. It's called Club Vertical, and it's kind of a big deal. We go into the public schools in Cabarrus County, Rowan County, and even Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and it is something, it's our heart, it's our passion to reach the students in the public schools that we bring pizza, or we bring donuts, we bring whatever we can to bribe students to come to our club, and we give them a positive and encouraging message to shed light in the darkness of the public school system. We like to minister to teachers, we bring muffins to teachers. That's what we do, we love it.
I came to the Refuge back in 2005 when we were about a year old, and actually the way we came was because my husband, Andrew Draper, played basketball with Pastor Jay on a basketball team. Yeah, we had a league back then. So that's how we came to know the Refuge, but I sat down with Pastor Jay one time and just was sharing my vision for the arts, and we just had a connection about creativity in the arts. And before you know it, I was helping with the Easter production in 2006. So I came on board in January of 2007 for the adventure. And then it grew. Andrew came on in September of 2007 as the children's pastor, and we had such a phenomenal time building Clubhouse Rock, coming up with Clubhouse Rock and developing that ministry. A few years later, I took on the role as a pastor of Little Church, which has been such a joy. I love kids. I love kids. I love the kids of the Refuge. So keep having kids, because I love them.
The moment I walked into the Refuge in October of 2005, I knew this was the place for me and my family. And the honor of Pastor Jay asking me to be on staff was unimaginable. So he called me one night and was like, I'm not sure if it was the pizza or that God was talking to me, but I believe I'm supposed to ask you to be on staff. It was an answer to prayer. And from that day on, I have been here, been honored to be on staff, and love being here at the Refuge.
When I first started working at the Refuge, one of the first things that occurred here was prayer. I came here on my first day, and we began with prayer. It doesn't get better than that, folks.
You know, whenever I was in middle school and high school, I literally got drugged to church every single weekend, and I figured if I had to go to church, might as well be a place that's really cool. And from then till now working in the youth ministry, it's been awesome getting to see the other side of things. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Pastor Jay and Melanie, the awesome staff at the Refuge, and all the amazing people that make this environment at the Refuge a great place to be a part of.
I remember coming on staff, I remember Pastor Jay wanting to meet with me, and I got an email from Bonnie Howard saying the pastor wanted to meet with me, and I had no idea what it was, and it kind of scared me a little bit because I knew I had only gone to see the Lone Ranger. That wasn't too bad, and I knew that I don't sleep in church, and I know I had a slice of pizza during Selah just one time, so I had no idea what he wanted to talk to me about, and at that point he was asking me to become a part of the staff of the Refuge. It's been a joy, it's a pleasure to serve, and I consider it a privilege to be on staff here at the Refuge.
It's funny, I tell people that asked about church planning that we really didn't know what we were doing when we started the Refuge, and that in many senses is the truth. But the great thing is that before we started the Refuge, the Lord gave me a vision, and in the vision I saw a hand drawing blueprints. And every time we got to a place that we didn't know what to do, that hand would turn the page and start drawing blueprints again. And I knew the Lord was saying to me that if we followed His design, if we did it His way, that every time we reached a place we didn't know what to do, God would turn the page and He would start drawing the next season or drawing the next step for us. And it's required faith all along.
Yeah, I thought, when we took the jump, and once we get to a point where we felt stable and established and we could kind of coast along, and honestly, that's never happened. It has just continued to grow with, we need more services, we need more parking, we have another campus, we have more staff. And I think for me, when it was just, if we blew it, it was just gonna affect me and Jay and our family, was a little easier. But then when it was like, there's lives that are depending on us hearing from the Lord correctly, it got even crazier. But it has truly been a walk of faith, and everyone that has joined our staff on some level, it has required great faith for them, and God has just shown Himself to be faithful over and over, and He has continued to write. And this step, as we are approaching going into the new building, has been the greatest step of faith yet. And but based on what He's done in the past, we just know that He will continue to write if we'll continue to listen. So it's exciting.
And we have a decade of experience in the faithfulness of the Lord in every aspect of the journey.
Yeah.